Sir, thanks for joining us today on Leadership Blog, which is a podcast on topics of interest for the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center community. And today's topic of interest is the Innovation and Integration branch within the RSO. So we're here to speak with George Sarmiento, the branch chief. And sir, if you could introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little background on your career.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably go a little deeper. Like you said, my name's George Sarmiento. I'm with the Rapid Sustainment Office. I'm the lead for the Innovation and Integration branch. I'll give you a little more background on me. I grew up in New York City. I'm first generation. My parents came from Colombia. I mentioned that just because my dad was a general contractor, and from the very beginning, he'd take me out and we'd work problems and try and find solutions to solve problems, which kind of makes me a perfect fit for this job. On my mom's side, my mom was real good that she thought education was really important. So a quick shout out to the University of Dayton and the Electrical Engineering Office where I got my engineering degree. But really for the acquisition side, my mom wanted us all to serve and give back. I've got two brothers who were in the Marines and a sister was in the Navy. And of course, I joined the Air Force. I did 20 years and retired. Had some excellent assignments. I started out working in the Air Force Research Lab. Working helmet mounted displays in the 80s before anybody even knew about AR, VR. And then from there, they sent me off to AFIT where I got a systems management degree. And then they sent me off to LA where I got to manage the production of GPS satellites in the Joint Program Office. That's again in the early 90s before we knew about GPS and all the maps and everything. So getting that started, and that was really a lot of fun. From there to Colorado Springs, where I got to manage the ground segment portion of that, how to control the satellites. And then back to Wright-Patterson, where I worked the C5 re-engineering effort. I got that started. It was an effort to get new engines and reliability enhancements for the C5 back in the early 2000s. And then after that, I worked in headquarters AFRL, looking at different projects and learning all about the different divisions and technologies that are in the lab, which has been very helpful to this job today. After the Air Force retired, I spent 5 years as an ANAS contractor. That was interesting work. And then in 2010, I joined civil service. My first assignment was working starting a new contract writing system called ConIT, which is now fielded. It took about 8 years, which shows you how fast the acquisition process is. And hopefully in the RSO, we hope to go a little faster getting things out in the field. From there, I worked over some classified systems, sensors on the Global Hawk and also on the U-2. So those were exciting efforts. And from there, they selected me to come to the RSO to be the lead for the Innovation Integration Office. And that's how I got here today in 2 minutes.
That's fascinating. So you've been in a lot of innovative programs throughout your career. It's interesting that you mentioned ConIT. We did an episode earlier this year on that software and how when PK went into telework, that software enabled them to be successful. If they hadn't had that, they might have had a real problem. But that software really helped them achieve what they needed to do.
Right. So
you should be proud of that, if nothing else.
Oh, I'm proud of a lot of efforts. GPS was fun. ConIT was fun. C5 re-engineering was fun. And the RSO has been a lot of fun.
So let's just dive right into the questions. So we talked about innovation and integration. Explain to us, what does that mean? Okay, I mean, we understand what the words mean, but what does it mean within the confines of the RSO?
Yes, that's a great question. Back in the summer of 2018, Heather Wilson and Dr. Roper thought, we spend a lot of money in the sustainment side, as all acquisition people know. The most costs of any program are really the sustainment side. So maybe we could come up with solutions to lower the costs or increase mission readiness, looking at the sustainment side of these programs. So the I2 role was to, we go out and identify and assess candidate technologies that we think would make a difference to meet the RSO mission of, like I said, reducing costs or increasing mission readiness. We get those. The way that process works is a half A4 gives us problem statements, ability to statements that says, I would like the ability to do X. And we take those problem statements and we start working them and start searching looking for solutions to those problems. And we've been very successful to date. We've awarded 32 prototype efforts. Several of them are now moving on to the next phase, heading towards scaling across the Air Force. So it's been a lot of fun. The bottom line, when I joined the RSO, the boss said, George, your role is going to be find new technology and solve these problem statements. So that's what I've been focused on the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the customer base or that you've worked with in order to solve these problems?
Yeah, that's another great question, right? A couple of things. Some of our partners that we've had to go out and reach. We've gotten to work with. I've got excellent connections with the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Army on their sustainment side. Working with them, trying to see what technologies they're working. Basically the way we organize to meet our technology solutions are in 6 different areas. We look at artificial intelligence, machine learning. We look at automation and robotics, augmented reality and virtual reality, advanced manufacturing, data and digital environments, and rapid and austere environments. So if you can picture that, I mean, that goes across the whole sustainment enterprise. So we look at anything from the flight line all the way out to the depot, the guys that are doing the work on the flight line, to the depot, to where they get this parts from over in supply. So it's a broad area, which means we've reached out to plenty of organizations, not just those agencies, but we have, for example, the AFRL. We have an AFRL liaison who helps us reach back to AFRL and really find the SMEs. When we find a project that we think looks promising, we always go back and do our research, do extra homework to see what the SMEs think about those efforts before we award a contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's smart reaching out to the other services, especially in the sustainment enterprise, because there's a lot of similarities there. Do they have similar organizations in the other services like the RSO, or do they have single organizations that are looking at these same kinds of problems?
Yeah, so they definitely have organizations that are looking at similar problems as the RSO. That's one of the learning things that I figured out. There's everybody's looking at these different focus areas, looking for the most promising technologies. Nobody's really organized like the RSO, whereas we're our own PEO. The Navy doesn't have one, Marine Corps doesn't have one, but the Navy's actually trying to stand up a PEO to model what we're doing in the RSO. So we're kind of leading the way. Dr. Roper was very influential in getting us started and going. And to date, we really seem to be making excellent progress on the way forward.
And of course, the PEO presence is the key from taking a good idea, but making it into something real, that you can actually put out into the field.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We've been very fortunate, when they stood up the organization, in order to make it permanent and stand the test of time, they gave us the AFLCMC commander as our PEO. So we had a 3-star General McMurray, as our PEO, and that helped us get started and help everyone understand the importance of what the RSO's mission is.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned problem statements. So where do those problem statements originate from? Do they come from the user community or?
Yeah, another good question. When we stood up, the Pentagon, half A4, went out and surveyed all the different A4s and developed problem statements, collected the problem statements from the field. So it came from the A4s, all the A4s and all the different MAGCOMs. And they built a list of ability to statements and problem statements that were handed off to us. So that was the way we got started. Since then, once we stood up and we started getting rolling, there are many users from the field that have heard about the RSO now and start reaching out to us. Hey, we've got this issue. Is there anything we can do? And there is. And we do that. The first 2 years, we've done that through the SBIR process, the Small Business Innovative Research process. And I can get into that a little bit more. What we do is we get those problem statements, we turn them into basically requirement statements out, focus area statements that we publish on the website, the Small Business Innovative Research website. And then companies out there see the problems, and following the process, they can submit potential solutions to those problem statements. And then we got a team, we have an excellent team to go through and do technical evaluations and skinny down to select the right projects that would like to invest in on the Air Force side. For example, last year alone, we looked at over, well, since the start of the RSO, our team has looked at over 2,500 proposals. So that's 2,500 proposals, and we've only selected 32 to go forward. So we're very selective. They've got to meet the need. They've got to have user support, which are two of our key factors in selecting projects.
So what are some of the other organizations that you partner with to when you're looking at these projects?
So when we look at the projects, we really draw in our SMEs from the lab to help us on these technical evaluations. We'll also reach out to, in these proposals, they identify a potential user. So we'll reach out to the user to see if they actually have interest. So our projects, one of my favorite slides is the map of the US, where we have had projects run up in Alaska, Hawaii, from California down to Florida to Boston. So we've really covered almost the whole country, working with small businesses, trying to find the best projects.
And what about the Defense Innovation Network? How do you interface with them?
Yeah, so one of the things we started with focus on small business because that was the funding we had. The RSO is looking to grow and start to reach out to larger organizations and other businesses. Defense Innovation Network is an organization that is made up of 100 plus venture capitalist funds, and they're interested in supporting the defense industry. So we go there and we brief them what some of our problems are, and they look through their portfolio. And if they find companies that could meet one of our problems, they'll forward that company name to us. This is something that we've just recently started. We've had a few projects come through that they've suggested, and we're really looking forward to the end of the year to invite a lot of these venture capitalists into our facility and with companies that they think support our needs. And the beauty of the venture capitalist companies is they've already been vetted to the max by the VCs themselves. So these small businesses already have that check that, hey, they're a good company. There's a good chance of it going forward and succeeding, mature technology. So we're very excited about that.
Can you give us some examples of some of the projects that you guys have passed along?
Yeah, that's so this really this perfect timing. There's one effort where we working down at Kirtland Air Force Base with the C-130. They wanted to, one of the things is when the maintainers are out working on the aircraft, they're trying to record the maintenance activities they've done. Then they have to go back to the hangar and input it into the IMDS system. Here's what I did, here's where I'm at. So there's a lot of lost time getting ready to go out to the aircraft and then coming back to the hangar and inputting the data. So one of the efforts we've done is we've parsed out some of these tech orders and digitized them. So now the maintainer can take a tablet or his cell phone and go out to the aircraft and record the activity as he's doing it, the maintenance task as he's doing it real time. And not only that, it's also being shared with the pro super back at the hangar so he can see what activity is being accomplished. So now it's all recorded real time. And if they have a shift change, there's no, here's where I'm at, here's where, because it's all right there. The pro super loves it because he's got multiple aircrafts and now he's got a dashboard where he can see the status of all the aircrafts on what activities have been done, what still needs to be done. And we're looking to expand that even further. So if it's a difficult task, then he knows which maintainer he'll have, who's trained to a level 7 who can go work that. If it's a simpler task, he knows he can send one of the younger airmen out to work that. So there's going to be a lot of pros with that. That was briefed all the way up to the AATC commander, Lieutenant General Webb, and that project's moving forward. Another one is an effort we were doing down at Hobart, down in Florida. Basically, it's called robotic process automation. But essentially, it's taking a manual task when an airman's making inputs on the computer. It's got to open the database, type in and search for a certain activity. And maybe that database has to connect to another database, right? So then he has to go to a different computer, log in and do that. With the robotic process automation, we're looking to automate a lot of these manual tasks.
Mhm.
So the one squadron down there for flight crew scheduling, for example, it takes them time to go through to find the right flight crew who's got the right training, hasn't had too many hours or needs hours. And so they go through and do all that search. We've automated all that for them down at that squadron down there. And now we have all the other squadrons wanting that capability, because it's saving them almost 1,000 hours of man time putting that data in. So that's just 2 examples of 2 efforts that have gone forward.
Yeah, and you could see, I mean, there's a lot of Air Force systems where they have different databases that do different things. And so being able to automate between those databases, that would be a really great thing to have.
Right. Yeah. And, Scott Air Force Base has reached out to us. They're asking us to do some effort up there, some similar efforts. So that's the next phase for that one going forward. So our desire is to build efforts that help the one user, but can also be expanded across the enterprise to someone who's got a similar problem. So there's not a lot of redo, a lot of reuse. So that's what we're trying to do at the RSO.
And when you coordinate back with the original requester to make sure that they're satisfied with the process, then you create kind of the self-licking ice cream cone, because they begin to tell other people about the results that you delivered, and win you more business in the long run.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. A good example of that one is if you can imagine solar panels made out of fabric, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a vendor out of Brooklyn, Pavilion, that started with, hey, I can build you a fabric that you can use to power your diesel generators, and we'll hook that up and we'll save you all kinds of time and effort because it's easily compacted. And that falls under a rapid and austere effort. If you could picture, if they go out to the desert somewhere where there's no power, they could set up this solar fabric and have instant power almost. And it's a quick setup. So we tested that at Robins Air Force Base. From Robins Air Force Base, with the tactical navigation folks that go out to set up the nav, word spread like wildfire. It's been to Guam, it's been to Hickam, it's been to Louisiana. Everybody wants to test it. Everybody likes it. So that's another effort that we're really excited about.
Yeah. So, sir, how can companies or organizations that want to get through to the RSO, or they want to do business with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's so. Mr. Parker likes to refer to our organization as the gateway to the RSO. If there's a new company, new vendor wants to work with the RSO, they just got to reach out to the I2 team and say, hey, I've got an idea. I saw your problem statements. I think we have a potential solution. And our team will take a look at it. But how do they do that? There's a couple of ways. They can go to the afrso.com website. And at that website, they'll find an email link that they can put in their company name, their information, and it'll come to us at the I2 team, and we'll respond to them right off the bat. Another way they could possibly reach out if they'd like to is go to LinkedIn. On LinkedIn at AFRSO, you'll find our organization, and they can post a comment and say, hey, we've got an idea, and word will get back to me. Or they can look up George Sarmiento on LinkedIn, and I'll get back to him directly. So there's a couple of ways. I guess the the last way, and probably one that we're working on right now, it's not fielded yet, but we've awarded a solicitation that we call Commercial Solutions Opening. And basically it's a site where we can post a call or a problem statement saying, hey, we're looking for solutions to this type of area. It'll be, and that gets published nationally. So any company can respond on the CSO with a white paper and say, here's what I'd like to do. And then we'll select from there who would like to go forward with. It's something that we're looking to put our first call out probably in the July, August timeframe. So that's really a good way for any company to reach out to the RSO.
Mm-hmm. So, sir, we're just about at the end of our time. But before we close, I just want to see, is there anything that you want to add or anything that we left out?
You know, I could easily go on for several hours. This job's been amazing. You know, when February of 19, there was 5 of us sitting in a small conference room, and the RSO has grown to over 100 people. And we've got a new facility called the Hangar, which is a great collaboration site. If vendors want to come in and prototype and show us some of their tools and some of their efforts, we're always open to that. And we're looking forward to using that Hangar to reach out and invite anyone who can help us solve these problem statements to help the sustainment community.
So, sir, thanks again for joining us on Leadership Blog today. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. It was excellent.